Canada has drawn attention in the CONCACAF region by completing the final round of the World Cup qualifiers at the top. Now comes a series of next-level tests, starting with Belgium No. 2 in the World Cup. Canadian men are jumping into the depths of world football. From this Sunday you can watch every match of the 2022 FIFA World Cup live on TSN, TSN.ca and the TSN App. Canada coach John Herdman is aware of the challenge that awaits us, and how their players will need to rise to meet it. He's up against the world's No. 2 team in Belgium. You look at that and you know there's another level to be found by our players, Herdman said. Yeah, that's kind of frustrating. I'm sure every coach has these feelings. I would say it's new, but definitely not a curse. It's a gift, he added. In Group F in Qatar, the Canadians in the 41st place are waiting for the 12th place Croatia and the 22nd place Morocco. And while Herdman is getting good pre-tournament news about former players Atiba Hutchinson and Jonathan Osorio's form, it's great to see goalkeeper Maxime Crepeau and defenders Scott Kennedy and Doneil eliminated due to injury. It was disappointing. More good news has come of Alphonso Davies, whose hamstring strain was not considered significant. But Herdman will no doubt breathe a sigh of relief when the Bayern Munich star takes the field for Canada. On the plus side, influential midfielder Stephen Eustaquio is in rich form with Portugal's FC Porto. Like Club Brugge's Tajon Buchanan, he's seen plenty of elite rivals in the Champions League. Jonathan David scores for Lille, France. And before the final injury, Davies was Davies. There are a lot of positive things for Canada, Herdman said before arriving in Qatar. While Herdman is a meticulous planner, there is little he can do about the MLS schedule and the fact that the season ends for Toronto FC and the Vancouver Whitecaps on October 9. CF Montreal, who made up 6 of the 11 MLS players on Herdman's roster, played until they faced New York City FC in the October 23 Eastern Conference semifinals. While some players may be lacking in match preparation for the next level of World Cup matches, Herdman will prepare his players tactically. Herdman and his team leave no stone unturned when it comes to spying on the opponent. And Canadians always have plans B and C in their back pockets. And if plan D is needed. Goalkeeper Milan Borjan has a history of requiring around 20 or 30 minutes of treatment, allowing players to go over the edge for hydration and a fresh dose of Herdman wisdom. With the tournament allowing for an expanded 26-man roster for the first time, Herdman and his team have taken due care of how a larger team will impact everything from training to staff load. They brought 26 players to the September camps in Europe ahead of the matches to be played against Uruguay and Qatar. We tested the environment in September. I think we have a great group of players with the right attitude. That's a good sign, said Herdman. But it's a challenge. There's definitely a rotation of players. It's a long tournament. No stranger to World Cups since his time in charge of Canadian women and New Zealand coaching under-20s and seniors. Herdman is well aware of the mental pressure on players who don't pitch in tournaments. That's the biggest challenge with coaching, said Herdman. It's about building a level of fairness in the environment and trust in decisions. And that's the journey you've taken. We have to accept that as a coaching team, as a whole staff, and then as a group of players. There will be things that affect and test the fraternity. There's no doubt that the brotherhood will be tested because when you put pressure on the expectations, scrutiny and results of a World Cup on this group. You know that people are never exposed to it. And most of the time you don't know how people are going to react in these situations. As it's our first World Cup, we're going to have a lot to learn. I know for sure. This is a first for the majority of staff on the men's side. And for these players as well. So they're going to learn a lot about each other. The Canadian men's 20-game World Cup journey also came with tests. While CONCACAF was against its opponent, a tight qualifying schedule due to the pandemic and the start of CONCACAF and Nations League play in Europe have left little room for teams to play against rivals outside their confederations. CONCACAF has only 3 teams in the top 40 in the FIFA World Rankings. By comparison, 21 in Europe and 6 in South America. Herdman is realistic. He hopes others will too. While Canada is in Qatar to compete and start a new World Cup legacy, it's also laying the groundwork for 2026, when it hosts the tournament alongside the United States and Mexico. I think real football fans in Canada understand that. They understand the realities of where Canada is now, said Herdman. We have a good team. We have good players. But a lot of that is uncharted ground for us. There will be a lot of learning experiences and on-the-job learning for the players and staff. As a coach, I will learn from day one until the day the tournament ends. That everything is going to be new. That's the embracing. But it's the same for many coaches and some players. They agree. I think the critical part is getting from preparing this team for 2026. From the game experience. From the tournament experience. Knowing that there is a lot of organizational information to be had. Canada will not need to qualify as hosts in 2026. But he will be a desirable competitor and destination for teams ahead of the tournament. It will also have an empty program. You have to be able to play the games that you can't reach and that are critical, Herdman said. Very important to understand what it feels like to play against over $500 million valuation teams. Billion-dollar teams and teams like Brazil and England. These are real tests. Next step tests you have to experience. For this World Cup, I think football fans who really understand football and world football understand that. They understand Canada playing with the world's No. 2 team. It's a big test and it's a real experience. Because maybe 10 years ago, I don't know, in the top 5 in the world, we've never played with a team that is in the middle of nowhere, he added. So we have a lot to learn. But we also have a weak opportunity. That's what we're going to embrace. Follow Neil M. Davidson on Twitter. This report from the Canadian Press was first published on November 17, 2022.